Well, spring is in the air this weekend in Minneapolis, Minnesota. A beautiful blue sky, bright sunshine, the rubber game of this three-game series. The interleague play, the Reds taking on the Minnesota Twins. And hi again, everybody, alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day. I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds Baseball right here on Fox Sports Ohio. He flirted with a no-hitter his last time up, pitching into the seventh inning. That's Tyler Malley. He ended up losing the shutout and the no-hit bid, but he threw the ball exceptionally well.
Well, he did, and he said that his fastball was working great. His slider, of course, was probably the best it's been all year long. But here's a young guy that throws up in the strike zone, four-seam fastball, and as one of those fastballs that seems to have a second gear to it. Hitters look like they're right on it. All of a sudden, it's in the catcher's glove. And if he can spot it the way he did last time against the Atlanta Braves, he'll have a good day here at Target Field.
You know, then you get to the offense, which, Chris, has really been Jekyll and Hyde in the games they win as opposed to those they don't.
Well, I mean, this is really the case in just about any ball club out there. You hit well and you score runs in games you win. You don't when you lose. The problem, though, with the Reds is not how many hits they get. It's when you get those hits. You continue to leave the bases open or loaded. You continue to leave a couple of runners on base at the end of every inning. And all of a sudden you look up and the Reds are second in the league in the most number of runners left on base, only behind the Washington Nationals. That's something that's got to change if they're going to win more games.
Well, I tell you what, they are facing one tough customer here today, and Jose Barrios.
Well, he is. I mean, he's a guy that Tom is kind of a throwback. He can go deep into a ball game. He had an excellent year last year after struggling in his rookie year. The curveball, that's his pitch. I mean, he stays right over the top with it. He mixes a four-seamer and a two-seamer. He's one of the real good young pitchers in baseball.
Alrighty, so Barrios against Malley when we come back. But first, we're going to show you some things that happened around baseball last night. Brian Giesenslaw and Jeff Pecoro are standing by with that. When we return, you're watching Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
State Chevy dealer and by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time. Closing out a three-game set here in the Twin Cities, and with a victory today, the Reds can get out of town with a series win, and it's been a while that they've done that against the American League team. You check out our Elk and Elk storylines today with a win today. It'll be the first three-game series win overall since September, first road series win since August, and look at the bottom there. First interleague three-game road series win to go back to 2013 at Houston. So a W and a series victory today as we go upstairs to Tom and Chris.
All righty, Jim Day, thank you very much. You couldn't ask for a more beautiful day today. The Reds batting order under manager Jim Riggleman. Brought to you by Nissan. Winker, Peraza, Votto. Jeanette the DH today. Suarez at third. Schebler in center. Latter third of Duvall and left. Barnhart catching. And Alex Blandino gets to start his first of the series at second base. Winker first pitch swinging and drives one 2 steps in front of the wall, but able to get to it is Rosario. 1 pitch 1 out. We're underway. Jose Barrios, boy, a talented young pitcher. It's already his third season in the major leagues, and he's only 23 years old.
Yeah, he's one of these guys, Tom, that you don't see him in the leaderboards of last year because he didn't pitch enough innings to qualify for that, but his numbers are right up there with the best of them. And you can see what he's done this year. He dominated in 4 games. He's coming off a rough outing, his worst against the New York Yankees his last time out.
Here's Jose Peraza. 1 out, nobody on, just underway. We're certainly appreciative and glad you're with us on this Sunday afternoon. Hope you're having a great weekend as Peraza fouls it off out of play. Good series for Jose. 5 of 10. Hit the 2 home runs for the first time in 1 game in his career here on Friday night. He has scored 3 runs, and since beginning the year, 0 for 12. Peraza has been a .322 batter, and he'll add to that here as he drives one into left center, and it'll fall in a base hit.
Well, your best chance of getting on base against Jose Barrios is swinging the bat, because he simply doesn't walk very many batters at all. He's got great control of all of his pitches, and swinging the bat is exactly what Peraza has done. Stays right behind that ball, breaking ball that goes away from him there. And you know, early in the year he was swinging and missing that pitch. Sometimes he was fouling it off straight back, but he's keeping his head still, and I know that he's done a lot of work in the cage, and it's beginning to pay off for him.
He is very much a base stealing threat. He's a perfect 3 of 3 in stolen base attempts so far this year. And now it's Votto at .271. Had that consecutive games hitting a home run streak come to an end here yesterday. He had homered in the 4 prior games after not hitting a single home run in the first 21 games of the year. So the Reds franchise record is still shared by a number of players of a home run in 5 straight. They include Jay Bruce, Devin Mesoraco, Adam Dunn, Ken Griffey Jr., Johnny Bench, George Crowe going way back, and the great Ted Kluszewski.
You can see what the Twins are trying to do with Votto. I think he scared him the other night when he hit that home run to right field about 500 feet. So they're staying out of the middle of the part of the zone and inner part of the zone, and they're trying to make him hit the ball the other way. This ballpark plays fair, not like Great American Ballpark where you can chip shot one into the left field seats. And that's what they're trying to do, is peck away at that outside corner.
It's a beautiful ballpark. We really enjoyed our weekend here. It was very cold here on Friday night, but with day baseball yesterday, and this is by far the nicest day. They're thinking the temperature might hit 70 in Minneapolis on this Sunday afternoon. Not even close. A 4-pitch walk.
Yeah, one of the things that when you look at a pitcher's numbers, you want to know how many strikeouts he has versus how many walks he has, because a lot of times they go together. But in this case, this is a pretty good leaderboard right here. In all of the major leagues, Miles Mikolas has the best strikeout to walk ratio of anybody. Of course, the Reds have seen him twice. Jose Barrios, now he's second in that. Zach Greinke, Alex Wood, Noah Syndergaard,
You're up there with the best pitchers in baseball right here, and probably the most unknown of all of them is the guy the Reds are facing here this afternoon. So the walk to Votto, a very rare thing.
That ball in the air down the right field line off the bat of Jeanette, but bending foul. It would not have been enough to get out of here. Scooter, a .296 batter. He has 2 home runs and 14 runs batted in. Reds had a big night offensively on Friday here. Season highs in runs, 15 hits and 20. But then really shut down yesterday. Just 1 run on 6 hits. They had chances, but just couldn't get the big hit like they did on Friday night. Reds come in 6 wins against 21 losses. Minnesota 9 up, 13 down. That victory yesterday stopped an 8-game losing streak for Paul Molitor's team. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Purpose pitch right there. You get 0-2 on the hitter, then you throw him your best fastball up around eye level. And so we try to get him velocitized to see that speed. He's going to take a little bit off right here, probably go down and away, maybe something to see if he can't get Jeanette into a ground ball double play.
Well, he got the ground ball, but a very soft throw from the second baseman Dozier to the covering shortstop. I'm not sure they would have doubled up Jeanette because it was so weakly hit, but there was nothing firm about that throw for the force out at second. The Twins on defense presented by Ford. Same outfield we've seen each of the 3 games of this series. Again, Escobar down at third. Adrianza had a good day yesterday at short. Dozier and Maurer on the right side, and their regular catcher Jason Castro back in there today, despite the fact that Mitch Garver had a very good day yesterday with a double and a home run. Now Suarez. Into left field. This one will roll all the way to the wall. This is a base hit. This will score. Peraza on his way to third, and stopping there is Scooter. A run scoring double by Eugenio Suarez has the Reds off and running. 1-0 here in the opening inning.
Sometimes if you don't get a really good pitcher early in the ball game, you don't get a chance to get him at all. And Suarez picks on a first pitch breaking ball that Barrios just kind of leaves way up in the zone right here. Good bit of hitting there. He saw it the entire way coming out of his hand. Probably wasn't looking breaking ball first pitch, but is able to drive a run in right there. Nothing sweeter than that 2-out ribeye.
Schebler hunting for one of those as well. Boy, has he been swinging the bat since coming off the disabled list today. He's played in 12 games, 3 home runs, 9 batted in, and a couple of doubles. Was fooled on that breaking ball and rolls over it, and that'll retire the side. But a good start for the Redlegs. They get a run. Tyler Malley gets a ball when we come back. Ballpark, and the Reds out to a 1-0 lead. Minnesota's lineup presented by Nissan. Dozier, Maurer, Rosario, Escobar the cleanup hitter, Kepler in center, Grossman in right, Morrison the DH, Adrianza the shortstop, Castro behind the plate. And starting it for the Reds, talented young right-hander coming off a great outing. Had a no-hitter going into the 7th inning and struck out his professional best. 11 hitters in the game is Tyler Malley.
Oh, we were talking about strikeout to walk ratio, 31-9 for Malley. That's not bad at all, considering that he is a very young pitcher, really making his way through the major leagues for the first time, even though he was up last year. He does it with a fastball and a slider, occasional changeup. But it's a nice, easy fastball, nice, easy delivery that has a little extra ride on it. And those that analyze the numbers, the really dig in deep as to when they start looking at things that pitchers do, they talk about spin rate, and he's got great spin rate on that four-seam fastball. That means the spin goes backwards. When you throw a four-seamer, it backs up on you. When you throw a breaking ball like he just did, that's an overspin. So there's the over-under.
Struck him out. Came with a fastball high and tight, and Dozier gone to begin the game.
Good spot right here. When he's on his game, you're going to see him go right upstairs and challenge hitters there all game long.
Mr. Twin, Joe Mauer, will step to the plate with 1 out, nobody on. Reds in front 1-0 here in the 1st inning. Mauer broke in as the regular catcher after just 3 seasons in their minor league system. The first overall pick in 2001, grew up here in Minneapolis and made it to the big leagues in 2004. He became a regular the following year and been a regular ever since. He did change positions. We talked about it with the multiple injuries, including a number of concussions back in his catching days, and they moved him over to first base. Been there ever since. Made 14 consecutive opening day starts, and you see where he ranks in a number of categories. Top 3 in most, 5th most runs batted in. Mauer now 35 years young. Been to 6 All-Star games. Was the American League's most valuable player in 2009. One of 5 Twins to ever win that award, including the guy sitting next toward us tonight, Justin Morneau. Sinking liner into left, caught by Adam Duvall. 2 down. The Reds on defense, presented by Ford. No Billy Hamilton today. Schebler moves into center. Blandino, his first start of this weekend series with Jeanette, the designated hitter, and Tucker Barnhart back in there after sitting out yesterday.
Yeah, you wondered, Tom, if this is somewhat of a message to Billy Hamilton. I mean, not only is he not starting today, but he was pinch hit for yesterday, 2nd time already this year. Maybe the only times in his major league career that he's ever been, or major league or minor league career that he's ever been pinch hit for. Try and maybe light a fire or so, and there's Schebler in center field.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about Jim Riggleman. He does not pull any punches when he's visiting with the media, when he's asked about his players in certain situations. We'll talk more about that when we return. Nice start from Malley. Sets him down in order. 1-0. Reds in front.
today. Well, Rickleman met the media today, and he said, listen, players' feelings are secondary. What I think is the right thing to do, he said, and I quote, you have to manage for the 25 and not the 1. If a player is offended or they have hurt feelings, you cannot let that be a deciding factor. It is simply part of the game to be pinch hit for, and hopefully it catches some players' attention.
Well, you know, Jim, you also could add further that the Jim Riggleman experienced the same thing as Billy Hamilton when he was a player. And remember now, I mean, Jim Riggleman was a highly drafted player originally by the Dodgers.
He was talking about when he was in the minor leagues that the first time he was pinch hit for in the minor leagues, he couldn't believe it, and he was like almost offended for a second. But then he realized, hey, listen, I need to look in the mirror and I need to feel badly for, or be mad at myself because I put the manager in the position to have to pinch hit for me. He said, I don't want to like toot my own horn, but the rest of the season, I hit 320. It lit a fire under him.
It's good stuff, Jim Day. Thank you very much. Reds lead 1-0. Adam Duvall, a laser but foul, leading off here in the second inning. Reds got a hit and a walk. Peraza and Votto, and then Suarez, a 2-out run scoring double for the game's only run in the first. Jose Barrios, we mentioned, just 23 years old. And I mean to tell you some of the numbers he put up last year. And Chris mentioned he couldn't qualify for maybe, you know, some of the statistical categories where they can say this guy was the best or this guy was the third best or fifth best, whatever the case may be. Breaking ball and it stays up and in. But the bottom line is he made 25 starts, won 14 games, had an ERA at 3.8, and the league hit just .239 against Barrios.
Well, just to say that he pitched enough innings last year to be on the qualified list, it would put him as the 11th best starting pitcher in baseball, right between Justin Verlander and Dallas Keuchel.
This did pop up, got in on his hands, and that's an easy play for Dozier. Here's Tucker Barnhart. .230 batter, 2 home runs, 8 knocked in, has 5 doubles. Started 2 and lays off the fastball. Ted Barrett calling the balls and strikes today. He is the crew chief. Lance Barksdale at first, Will Little at second, Tom Woodring is the umpire at third.
I don't know about you, Tom. I love that view from behind home plate that we get a good shot here at Target Field of. You see the pitch coming in. It gives you a little bit of a feel for the idea of how quickly a batter has to react, what your recognition has to be, how quickly you recognize ball, strike, breaking ball, fastball. Took a little bit off that pitch. I think the game looks, you know, the old saying is the game looks easier the further you get or the farther you get from the dirt. And of course it even looks easier when you're watching it from center field, as we do most of the time.
Three balls, 2 strikes on Barnhart with 1 out and nobody on. And Barrios cuts it loose. Nowhere near the strike zone. He clearly does not have his best command at the start of this game. You know, the Votto walk, you could say, okay, maybe they didn't want to pitch to him to begin with. But as Chris mentioned earlier, this guy in 31 innings had only walked 3 batters coming into the game. He's already walked 2 of the first 8.
Well, the last delivery missed because he did the thing that most pitchers do most often when they're not on, which is your front shoulder flying open, your arm lagging behind, the ball goes up and away.
Alex Blandino. First season coming up to the big leagues, and he's making the most of it. He comes in with a career best 6-game hitting streak. He has 9 hits in his last 21 trips. That's a .429 average, including 3 2-hit games. Getting the nod at second base here today with the use of the designated hitter, and that spot belongs to Scooter. Blandino out of Stanford University. That's Stanford, not Samford, the one in Palo Alto, California. Phillip Ervin, former #1 pick, just sent back to AAA Louisville, is from Samford, not Stanford. Had a conversation with a fellow that I had just met recently, and he kept saying Stamford, S-T-A-M-F-O-R-D, and I don't know if he was trying to play tricks with me or whatever was going on. I must have asked him like 4 or 5 different times, are you talking about the one in California? He said, yes, Stamford.
Oh, I thought he was talking about the one in Connecticut.
Is there a Stamford in Connecticut?
Well, there's a city.
Well, I know that, but I don't know if there's a college.
That there's got to be maybe a community college.
Yeah, probably
up there.
right. Yeah. That's not a very big state. Does George Graham live in Stamford?
No, he lives in, what's the name of that little town that George lives in? Right outside of Hartford.
Senior moment, don't worry.
Yeah, yeah. I addressed the Christmas card, so I should know it.
Sure you do. Sure you do. Ground ball, they'll get the out at second, and a throw to first is not in time. Blandino just able to beat it.
You know, one of the things that the people who have been watching the Twins over the last few years feel that they made the big jump, of course, from losing 100 games in 2016 and making the playoffs last year, was the improved defense. They were a horrible defensive ball club, and their pitching staff was a really pitch to contact type staff. They don't have a lot of power arms. They don't have a lot of pitchers that have strikeouts. So you put the ball in play, and if you don't have a good defensive ball club, that's, you know, you're playing with danger. They have improved that immensely over the last couple of seasons.
Tell you what, though, it's been proven, and not to say there haven't been some exceptions, but you know, you make an interesting point there about not having power pitchers. Generally, when you get to the postseason, the teams that end up winning the whole thing, or at least getting to the World Series, have at least 2 or 3 just dominant power pitchers in their rotation. Yeah. Most of the time, not every year.
Well, they're #1 or 2 starters, and that's what you're looking for. I mean, if you have a rotation of #3 starters that have all had pretty good years,
sure,
and you get to the postseason, now you're matched up against 1 or 2 or 3 of the best pitchers in the league.
But you know, it's funny. It's funny when you even go back to guys that you would consider to be #1. They're all in the Hall of Fame. You know, if you go back to that run where the Braves went to the postseason 12, 13, 14 years in a row, and they only won 1 World Series. As great as Maddox was, he was not a power pitcher. As great as Glavine was, he was not a power pitcher. And neither one of those guys fared particularly well in their careers in the postseason. By far their best postseason pitcher was John Smoltz, who was the very definition of a power pitcher. Swung on and fouled out of play by Winker. He flied out to the wall in left field on the first pitch of the game. Ball to 2 strikes on Winker. Breaking ball in the dirt. And a count even up with Blandino at first and 2 outs. Ball ripped into right field, a base hit by Blandino, or by Winker. On his way and being waved around is Blandino. Throw to the plate, not going to be in time. Blandino picking him up and putting him down. Another 2-out double. That's how the Reds scored in the first inning. They get one from Winker here in the second, and the lead is 2.
Well, Winker has been up twice, and he's hit the ball extremely hard both times. First time flied out the left field wall. This time down the right field line he goes. And really good base running right here by Blandino. Never gave up. Trusted Billy Hatcher at third base. And, you know, this is the reason why they're able to beat that relay throw. That's one of the things that Jim Riggleman has really wants his ball club to concentrate on is better base running. Take advantage of what the team is giving you. Because when your team is slumping offensively, you've got to look every way you can.
I remember Don Zimmer used to say all the time, now whether it's true or not I have no idea, but he said it a lot and he believed it. He thought that, you know, if you took pitching out of the mix in all the other areas of the game, he thought you could win and lose more baseball games with good base running or bad base running, even more so than good defense or bad defense. I was kind of surprised to hear it, but Don Zimmer's forgotten more baseball than I'll ever know.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that the coaches like to say is that run with your head up. You know, be aware of what's going on. Be aware of where the outfielders are playing, where the infielders are, who's getting the relay throw. And, you know, that's what I was reminded really by Gene Glynn, who's one of the coaches here with the Twins, longtime coach. He's been around forever and ever. He and I were minor league teammates at one time, and I thought that was an interesting saying that I'd heard before and completely forgotten. Run with your head up.
2-1 on Peraza, who singled his first time up. Drives this ball to right field, but waiting on it is Grossman, and that'll do it. But the Reds have scored single runs in each of the first 2 innings, trying to win this series in Minneapolis.
The last couple of days about his German descent. Well, on this day in Reds history, brought to you by Geico, Donald Lutz became the first German American to appear in a Major League Baseball game when he pinch hit for the Reds. He was the second graduate of MLB's European Academy to make it to the big leagues. He played in 62 games in 2013 and 2014 for the Reds, and his only career home run came on Mother's Day in 2013.
All right, Jim Day. Good stuff. Jim, you're down here in the sunshine today. A little warmer today, big boy.
It's beautiful down here right now. I didn't bring any. No, I didn't bring any. So.
I know. There's only, 40 liters of it down in the clubhouse where you spend so much time.
I'm not taking sunscreen out of the clubhouse. That ain't happening.
Rick Stowe would help you out. You really ought to ask him. I mean, you're sitting out there all day long. It's, come on. Come on.
Well.
Come on, you're a big leaguer. Hooked into right field off the bat of Eduardo Escobar. Boy, has he swung the bat well in this series. Got an RBI double yesterday. Was on base a couple of times on Friday night. He and Rosario have had good series.
Well, he gets a hanging breaking ball right here. Just kind of stays up right about waist high. A lot of pitchers will use that breaking ball early in the count just to try to get ahead of the hitters, but you still have to finish it off. You just can't roll it up there and expect them to take it. Scott Sebler hit a first pitch curveball home run yesterday.
First base runner of the game. It's a leadoff double here in inning number 2 for Escobar. Now Max Kepler, the center fielder, takes off the inside corner. Ball 1. 295 batter, 4 home runs, 7 doubles, 9 runs batted in for Kepler. Hitless yesterday. Had 3 hits in the series opener. Fastball paints the outside corner to get it to 2-1. Straight up in the air, center field. That'll be easy for Schebler. 1 out, runner stays put.
One of those wasted at bats right there. If you're Kepler, you're thinking, man, all I really needed to do, I had a leadoff double ahead of me. I've got to get that guy over to third base, and a lazy fly ball to center field doesn't get it done. So on the other hand, if you're Tyler Malley, you're thinking, good. I don't have to give him up an easy run right here. They're going to have a base hit to score one.
Robbie Grossman, the batter. 1 home run, 8 knocked in, 4 doubles, and a .213 batting average. Grossman had a sac fly RBI yesterday. 3 hits, was on base 4 times on Friday night when the Twins scored 9 runs and 14 hits and got beat. Look out.
You know, when a batter reacts the way that Grossman reacts, it looks a lot closer than it really was. I mean, he waited to the very last second before he bailed out of there.
But he did something you and I were talking about the other night that you rarely see hitters do anymore, that you're taught to do, and that is he turned away from the ball towards the catcher rather than flying open and making his hands and his thumbs and his fingers or other parts of his body susceptible to getting hit.
And did you see that little hitch he had right there as soon as Malley released that last pitch? He wasn't hitting that one. He was just kind of getting comfortable back in the batter's box again. So whether purpose pitch or not, it had a nice result.
Got a swing and a miss on him, and that's the second strikeout of the game for Tyler.
breaking ball right here after a couple of fastballs on the inner part of the plate. Takes a little bit off, gets away with one that's upstairs because Grossman, I don't think he still felt comfortable in the batter's box.
So Malley now has 33 strikeouts against just 9 walks through his first 5+ starts this season. And here's Morrison after a leadoff double. Malley trying to keep Escobar there at second base. Morrison has really hit the ball hard in this series. Doesn't mean he's always getting rewarded for it. He had 2 hits, drove in 3, including a 2-run home run. We showed you the exit velocity of the senior. He singly had to knock in a run that night at nearly 114 miles per hour. He's 1 for 3 last night, but he's finally squaring some balls up after a terrible start to this season, his first as a Twin.
But he signed a 1-year contract here with the Twins. Like so many of these Twin players, they're going to be a bunch of free agents at the end of the year, and the Twins will have a lot of cash laying around to hit that big free agent market that's coming up. And it's easy to kind of compare him, I would imagine, in age and everything else, to Yonder Alonso. Same type of player. The Indians invested probably twice as much into Alonso because they gave him a 2-year deal rather than Morrison over here in Minnesota getting a 1-year deal.
There's ball 4 to Morrison. First walk for Tyler Malley. Jair Adrianza will be the batter with 2 on and 2 out. Reds leading 2-0 in the second inning. Adrianza got the start yesterday. He was on base twice in 3 plate appearances. A walk, a double, and bounced out. Has just 30 at bats so far this season and 7 base hits. And it's 0-2. Struck him out on a high, tight fastball at 95 miles per hour. 3 strikeouts for Malley. The Twins strand 2. The Reds lead by that number. Start your streak and compete to win $5.6 million. Download Beat the Streak today in the App Store or on MLB.com/BTS. Fun game. Joey Votto shoots one the other way to open up the third inning. Votto will walk in a single to start the day. Reds with a 2-0 lead in this, the decisive game of this 3-game set.
Well, after being walked in the first time up and really not having a pitch to hit at all, Votto goes up there figuring that Berríos is not going to want to walk him to lead the inning off. Come right in there with a get-ahead fastball, and Votto laces it into left field. He can get down there to first base and talk hitting with Joe Mauer. Two guys cut from the same thread there.
Well, we did not see it, but I guess Fox Sports North did a lengthy interview with Joey Votto, Justin Morneau, one of their all-time great players, and he's now part of their broadcast team, and a Canadian born and raised like Votto. They sat down in the dugout and did a very long interview, which I think they were airing today. Scooter Gennett drives one down the left field line. Votto on his way to third. They're going to hold him there, so the Reds are in prime position to add to this 2-0 lead. Runners at second and third and none out in the third.
They're wasting no time. They're figuring that Berríos is going to throw strikes, and going the other way with it is Scooter Gennett. I don't really know why teams continue to pitch him up and away. He has done that all year long. And they are in the driver's seat to get something done. Still really in the middle of the order when you're talking about Suarez and Schebler and then Duvall coming up.
Well, this is where we talked about it yesterday, and we talk about it all the time. When you get second and third and nobody out, you need 2 runs. Because all you need is 2 ground balls to the right side or a couple of fly balls, and 2-0 becomes 4-0. Now, obviously easier said than done. But you don't have to go out there and drive a ball in the gap. That'd be great. But even a couple of quiet outs and you've got 2 more runs. Suarez with a 2-out run scoring double in the first inning. You see 3 times, 7 or more innings, once a complete game, no runs allowed. His other 2 starts, 5 of them, including his most recent in the Bronx. The ball gets away, not very far, not far enough anyway. And it's 2-1 on Suarez.
That looked like a cross-up the way that Jason Castro, the catcher, went after that ball. Looked like he was looking breaking ball, and Berríos throws a fastball. That's why they had a little quick meeting on the mound. Now here's something for you, Tom Brenneman. Right after this, Castro goes out and talks to Berríos, but it's not a charged visit.
I was getting ready to ask you that question.
Yeah, I don't know really what the line of demarcation is, so to say, for the umpire to make that decision. Doesn't appear to want to throw a fastball to Suarez right here. That's our buddy Ted Barrett.
Yep. There's ball 4, and the Reds have them loaded with nobody out. 3 walks in the game by Berríos. He had walked just 3 batters all season in over 31 innings coming into the game today.
Well, he's made a number of trips out there. Garvin Alston has. Never pitched in the major. Well, actually, he did pitch in the major leagues. A brief time in 1996, Alston did for the Colorado Rockies, but he'd been around the game a long time. Been a bullpen coach with the Oakland A's. Young man that grew up in Mount Vernon, New York, went to Florida International, and now lives in Phoenix.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't Mount Vernon, New York, isn't that where the Army Academy is? Is that in Mount Vernon, New York?
I know it's on the Hudson.
Thought it was. I could be wrong.
Talk about West Point.
West Point, thank you. Naval Academies here in Annapolis. They're loaded with nobody out. I always draw a blank on West Point. I don't know why. Schebler with the bases juiced. He rolled out to second his first time up. Broken back. They're going to come to second. And I am stunned.
I am too.
I am absolutely stunned. They don't throw that ball to the plate. They just gave away a run.
Well, and especially considering you have Joey Votto, who's one of the slower runners on the Reds team. It just seemed like, you know, at first base, Joe Mauer gets this ball. He had made his mind up ahead of time. And I'm sure that they're shaking their heads in the Twins dugout as well. Ball hit fairly sharply, but right at the... And he kind of waited there for it, too. You could have charged that ball, got just as big a hop, and had your momentum going to the plate. Look where Votto is right here. Thank you very much.
All right, Reds will take it. It's a 3-0 game, and they're on the corners with one out. What we were just talking about, you had second and third, and a couple of ground balls. In this case, a decision made by Mauer not to come to the plate. Duvall, his first time up, popped up, got jammed with a pitch and just muscled it basically right at the second base bag, and that's where Dozier was standing when he made the play. Twins already have action in their bullpen. They got a good start yesterday, 6+ innings from Odorizzi. A very poor start they got here on Friday night by Phil Hughes. 2-1 on Duvall. And getting loose down there in their bullpen is Matt McGill,
Former Cincinnati Red.
Foul ball. That young man is some kind of excited. He should be. Ground ball to short. There's one. They turn it over. And safe the call as Duvall gets down there in time to bring in another run. Tell you, their defense might be good if you hit it to them. But their middle infielders, they've had 3 or 4 chances to turn double plays today and just can't do it.
Yeah, clearly safe at first base is Duvall there.
Adam, his 14th run batted in. And it's 4-0 Reds here in the 3rd inning. Barrios came in having allowed just 10 earned runs in 31 2/3 innings. And all 10 came in 2 starts. We showed you a moment ago. The other 3 starts, he was shutout baseball. Tucker Barnhart. Ball 1. And you can just tell he's really struggling with command out there. You know, you look back through this game, the walk to Votto early on. More surprising would be the walk to Barnhart in the 2nd inning, which led to a run. And now an easy stolen base by Duvall as Barrios just didn't even look over at it.
I love that kind of play right there. That's heads up on the part of the Reds, taking advantage of a guy that is more worried about trying to throw the ball where he wants to in the strike zone than about the runner. Never even looked at him. You got to consider, if you've never pitched, if you've never been a right-handed pitcher anyway, when you come to your stretch position, you really can't see first base and where that runner is unless you kind of turn a little bit. So it's assumed automatically, oh, how can you ever let that guy get a jump like that? Well, he's doing it with your back turned.
One hopper at Dozier, and this will retire the side, but 3 straight scoring innings for the Redlegs. 4-0 our score.
The game from your private climate-controlled indoor space, or step outside and watch the action from the patio. Plus, your game ticket includes a catered buffet and drinks. Book today at reds.com/groups. We've talked a lot this weekend about Target Field, Reds' first trip here. The natives are used to it, though. This park opened in 2010, and they're finally used to outdoor baseball. The natives tell me the first game they had here, it was a beautiful day, a warm day, and mid-game it started raining. And the fans actually stood up and gave a standing ovation for the rain that day. After many, many years of playing indoor baseball, finally some outdoor baseball, and first time I've ever heard of rain in a baseball game, which you don't want, getting a standing ovation.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Well, they love their outdoor baseball, no doubt. No better day than they've had all year long than today, this sunny Sunday that has a lot of people in the stands today.
A little over 25,000 the first night, 27,115 yesterday, and certainly exceeding that number, as Chris mentioned, today.
You know, Tom, we were talking about how green the grass is on the field here at Target Field. I got talking with one of the groundskeepers today and found out some little known facts about how they do that. And I think it's just fascinating the way, you know, you're growing green grass here in Minnesota and it's ready for the start of the season, which is late March. Good pitch and a strikeout to start the inning for Tyler Malley. There are 40 miles of piping beneath the grass in the field here, and it's a combination liquid of maybe 70% water and about 30% kind of an oil that they've been. It's a completely enclosed system, and they get it down to about 40 degrees all winter long. They double layer it with blankets all winter, and then when it's time to heat it up for the spring, they turn on the heat. They let the hot water mixture come in there, and they warm that field up, and it starts growing grass. The other day, about a week or so ago, when they got 20 inches of snow, they had the grass field, infield and outfield, all heated to about 70 degrees. but the snow was coming down so fast that it still wouldn't melt. They pushed it all over to the side, and all the water that does come down here, any rain, any melted snow and so on, is all caught by reservoirs beneath the stadium and put into a big cistern. That water is then filtered and heated, and that's what the workers do to use and to clean their seats off with high-powered hot water sprayers. And that's also how they melted the snow that was pushed against the side.
Very interesting. Very smart. It's good planning.
Yeah, I mean, they're not leaving much of a carbon footprint behind.
Well, that heating system you talked about, that's where you see in a lot of NFL stadiums now, and you'll wonder why in freezing cold places in December you'll see the grass so green, because really the NFL has been the leader in that sort of system. Maybe not an identical system, but I'm saying heating underneath the field as Malley strikes out back-to-back batters. And then the key being, like you talked about, the blankets they're putting on the top of it.
Well, back-to-back punch-outs for Malley. He's providing his own heat right there with that kind of a fastball. One more footnote on that is that the heated water actually comes from a trash, where they're burning trash in a special facility next door, and all that hot water is provided by the byproduct of that heat. And they also are able to heat the promenade and the park area outside of the target center, which is their basketball court. So that keeps the ice and the snow off for basketball fans as they come here all winter long.
Very nice. Very nice.
Hey, Malley does better when we're talking about field construction than we're talking about anything else. I mean, he's 2 for 2 with strikeouts and now has Joe Mauer at the plate. Five of them on the day for Tyler.
We mentioned his last start. He struck out 11, and that was in 6+ innings when he carried that no-hitter into the 7th. Freddie Freeman hit a home run, and that ended obviously the no-hit bid and the shutout bid.
Well, the Braves were really impressed. I talked to a number of their players and coaches after that, and they said the kid just looked like he's throwing nice and easy. And all of a sudden, the ball has that second life to it, and it gets on you.
The 11 strikeouts he had in the 6+ innings, the most he's ever had in any game as a professional. His prior high was 9. Straight away center field, hit hard. A lot of territory out there, and Schebler's got it. That will end the inning. Second perfect inning of the afternoon for Malley as a 4-run lead. Virginia watching the game on Sudden Link. today's affiliate of the game, the Mountain State of West Virginia. Well, an early hook today for Jose Barrios, who clearly did not have his best stuff. And it's going to be the left-hander Taylor Rogers coming on here in the fourth, and the Reds with a 4-0 lead.
I'm sure if you're a Twins fan, you're leaving maybe some curiosity as to why they may have taken Barrios out of the game.
He did not strike out a single batter. Yeah, he didn't strike out a single batter. He had struck out 36 in 31 innings and walked only 3, so he doesn't walk a batter. I mean, he doesn't strike out a batter, and he walks 3 batters. We did not see Rogers yesterday. We did see him on Friday night. A third of an inning, allowed 3 hits. He faced 4 batters, gave up 3 hits, 3 singles. 2 of them were infield singles. No runs. Alex Blandino to be followed by Winker and Peraza. Alex drew a walk his first time up. Base hit right field, and the hitting streak continues now for Blandino, a career best 7 in a row.
Well, he's probably looking at Jim Riggleman and saying, thanks for giving me a chance to play every day, because I can finally show you what I showed, I think, some of the staff down in spring training. Well, he got to play every day down there. He was getting his share of hits. In fact, he kind of put himself back on the radar this spring after disappearing for a while. Using the entire field, and he gets a first batter opposite hit here.
Well, you know, Winker is doing this on his own. I mean, I think everybody would be stunned if he's asked to bunt a rotor over to second base here in the 4th inning, the way he's made contact so far. It is a left-hander on the mound now. How cool is that? That's what the scoreboard does here. Winker. They have him winking at you with that left eye. It's pretty big league. Of course, he told that story to, who was it, either Jim Day or Jeff Pecoro the other day, about people throughout his entire life, including in the minor leagues, saying his last name Winkler, like Henry Winkler, and how, you know, he didn't seem to be too bothered by it, but apparently he has a brother that really gets upset about it. And Winker has his second hit. This will send Blandino on to third. So here come the Reds yet again. 7 hits already in the game, and we're just 2 batters into the 4th inning. Our IGS bringing the energy. Second time this year the Reds have scored in 3 consecutive innings. They did it here on Friday night, and now they've done it in the front 3, and they're making a real good run at making it 4 straight scoring innings. Runners on the corners and nobody out in the heart of the order coming up. Peraza has singled, scored, and fly to right. Strike 1. Through the hole into left field, a base hit and an RBI for Peraza. 3 singles to start this Reds 4th inning, and now their lead is 5. Another 2-hit game for Peraza. We have a long way to go in this one.
Well, he's had both his hits to left field right here. Finds a hole in that 5.5 spot between the third baseman and the shortstop. Shortstop playing around there in double play depth and opens up just a little bit of space there on the left side. He is getting a lot of hits.
He has 31 hits in his last 93 at bats. 31 of them. Now Votto, he walked his first time up, swung at the first pitch to open the 3rd inning, and singled into left field, would later score. Fooled a little bit there on the breaking ball. It drops in there, a strike.
You know, I'm wondering, and I don't know exactly when Jose Peraza was shifted from somewhere else in the lineup up to the number 2 spot, but when you're hitting in front of Joey Votto, you got to figure you're going to get a certain number of pitchers coming right after you. And Peraza is always a guy that was very difficult to walk, and he would chase a lot of pitches out of the zone when pitchers were nibbling around the outside. They don't do that as much now with Votto on deck because they don't want him on base with Votto coming up. So you learn to swing the bat a little bit more, and I think that has really benefited him. That's one example of where a guy moving in the batting order can really, you know, fit his style of hitting.
It started when the team went to Philadelphia. Peraza had 5 hits in his first 25 at bats on the year. And since that time, he now has what, 27 hits since moving into, by and large, every day the number 2 spot in the order. That was that first road trip of the year when the Reds went to Pittsburgh and then Philadelphia. But in fairness, as Votto swings and misses for strike 3, you know, it'd be interesting to know, and we'd have to ask Brian Price, but that, you may remember, is when Suarez got hurt in the final game of the Pittsburgh series. So, you know, whether or not that had something to do with the shift or whether they actually wanted to get Peraza closer to the top of the order.
I think it's curious because it was Suarez for a while, and now that Suarez is back, he remains in the number 2 spot.
Well, why mess with a good thing, right?
Exactly. Big strikeout there for Rogers by being able to retire Joey Votto.
Now he faces a left-handed batting Jeanette, and a breaking ball drops in there, a strike.
Rogers is a left-hander that is really from Reds country if you consider down in Lexington, Kentucky, as a member of the University of Kentucky Wildcats.
Of course it is.
That's where the Twins got him, 11th round, 2012.
The Big Blue. That's very much Reds country.
He had a nice year last year, 7-3. All pitching out of the bullpen. He's got a twin brother who's also in the minor leagues playing professional baseball, who is a right-hander and a submariner.
Low and 2 on Jeanette. Jim Day, big day for Scooter Jeanette today.
Yeah, we've told you he's a big Dale Earnhardt Sr. fan. Changes number to 3 to honor him. Puts on the knob of his bat the 3. That's the replica of Dale Earnhardt, the way he put it on his car. Well, today would have been Dale Earnhardt's birthday, born April 29th, 1951. Scooter with that eye black up there under his right eye. Probably hard to see on the camera, but under his right eye, the number 3 in there to honor his guy on his birthday, Dale Earnhardt Sr.
Well, there's some really famous people born on this day. They put it up on the scoreboard a minute ago. Willie Nelson turns 85 years old today. 85. One and two on Jeanette. Of course, Scooter was born in the greater Cincinnati area, but grew up in Sarasota. And even though NASCAR certainly is a national sport, in some cases international sport, its very roots took hold in the deep South. Still 2-2 on Jeanette. Scooter this year has hit left-handers much better than at any point in his career. Now it's early on, and you're talking about only 22 at bats, but he has 8 hits and 7 runs batted in so far this year against left-handers. Doesn't chase that breaking ball. Question now becomes, is this left-hander, is he comfortable throwing a breaking ball on 3 and 2? Or does he come with the heat? Already 2 on with just 1 out. Reds have scored in each of the first 4 innings. Scooter wanting that napkin picked up that was blowing around right behind the pitcher. Winker picked it up and put it in his pocket. Threw him a fastball. There's one. And that's all they'll get. On to third goes Winker. 2 away in the inning for Eugenio Suarez, and that's going to be all for Rogers. Well, Molitor will go to his pen. I think they had McGill back up there again, didn't they? Or is that somebody else getting loose? We'll let you know when we come back. Easy back in 2014, and he pitched in the Red system 15 and 16, including 5 games with the major league club, just 4 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs.
Yeah, he was set back because he ended up blowing out his elbow shortly after joining the Reds, but did eventually make the major leagues with him.
Runners on the corners with 2 away, and there's a Eugenio Suarez and a first pitch breaking ball from McGill, and there's strike 1. Signed with the Padres, did McGill last year. And he pitched for their AAA team in El Paso. 16 games as a starter last year. One in the first, one in the second, two in the third, and one more here in the fourth. Reds have scored in 4 straight innings for the first time in a game this season. Told you a moment ago they did it 3 straight innings here on Friday night, so they've enjoyed, offensively speaking, at least in 2 of the 3 games. Their first ever visit here to Target Field. You take away the outfield seats, and basically when you just look at the primary bowl and seating area of the 4 decks, it's almost identical to San Diego.
Yeah. Well, same coloring too.
Yeah, everything. I mean, it's almost exactly the same, which is also on a very small piece of land.
8.5 acres.
You mentioned that Tommy John surgery. That was done by Dr. Kremchek on McGill. Broken bat. And this will fall in, a base hit and another run. Suarez, his second 2-out run scoring hit of the day. He had 1 in the first and now 1, a broken bat here in the 4th.
Sometimes it's just your day, and it looks like it's that way for the Reds here and their hitters today. Broken bat, got in on him right on the label. The bat explodes at home plate, but there's enough speed on that swing to drive it into shallow left field. Reds have not had too many days like that where things just kind of fall in for them. It sure is nice when it happens.
Shoveler the batter with a count of 1 ball and 1 strike. Fastball outside and high. To the right side and under the glove of Dozier, and this will bring in another run. Shoveler, his first hit, second RBI, and everything going the Reds' way here today. It is 7-0 in the 4th inning.
Just looked like a little bit of a lazy play on the part of the Twins second baseman right here.
Well, not been impressed with either one of the middle infielders defensively.
I mean, this is a very catchable ball. The ball just stays down. He's anticipating that ball taking a big hop, and when it doesn't, it goes underneath the glove. The Cardinal sin.
I mean, Dozier's obviously a good player. He's had a good career, but today has not been his day on the defensive side. He's had very weak throws, feeding the shortstop on attempted double play balls, and then that play. Here's Duvall. Big swing and a foul ball out of play. A 3-run 4th inning. 5 base hits. And it's strike 3 called to retire the side. 8 back, 3 scores, 7 zip Reds, middle of the 4th.
Working in overtime. Well, I checked in with Schebler, and right now he's not wearing the mouthpiece because he has Invisalign braces, those retainer-based braces, so he can't wear the mouthpiece at the moment. He's got to wear these braces to the end of July, so he says it's up in the air, but right now it's making his mom happy because his mom hated that mouthpiece chewing at the plate. And he said, well, I've had to go to the gum because, Jim, you took away the pacifier you gave me a couple of seasons back in spring training. We sat down and gave him some alternatives to chewing mouthpieces, and I gave him a pacifier, and he playfully played along. I had a box full of goodies that I just gave him of alternatives, including straws, and there's the pacifier. And he was a good sport about it. But right now, it's gum, and he's working overtime on it.
Well, he's an easy guy to like.
Oh, yeah.
We talk about this Reds team has a lot of those guys. And Schebler, grew up in Iowa, heartland of America. Just a rock solid guy. Line into center field. Escobar has his second hit.
Really lost in this ball game because the Reds have been able to score so many runs. It's a very efficient outing so far that Tyler Malley is putting together. He has struck out 5, walked 1.
Tyler will turn his attention to Max Kepler, who flied out to center his only time up today. Minnesota with just 2 hits in the game. And to the right side, this should be an easy double play, and they turn it over indeed. So Malley gets a double play ball, and we go to the 5th. All Reds 7-0.
on Instagram to relive great moments and get insights from the players. Follow Fox Sports OH on Instagram. Well, the Reds in a commanding 7-0 spot right here as we go to the top of the 5th inning. Tyler Malley doing his job on the mound. The Reds offense getting it done, and it'll be Tucker Barnhart that lead it off.
Sorry, I got a little tied up back there. You know the great wide receiver of the Arizona Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Right? His father, of course, been a sports writer here in town forever and a day. And Larry grew up, you know, on the sidelines all the time. And his dad is just, I mean, and Larry Fitzgerald was just, I mean, off the charts, first class, top shelf. Dad's the same way. Nice to see him back there. Like a lot of people in that business, they're just finishing up covering the NFL draft for the last number of days.
Well, we missed you.
I'm sure a lot of people did at home. I have no doubt about that. They were hoping you would just do the play-by-play and then take it right onto the house.
I think only the Twitter crowd.
What's that?
Only the Twitter crowd.
I believe me, I knew that without you even saying it. I mean, you want to really get yourself bummed out, go tune into that world. Lined, caught down to first base. Hard hit ball by Tucker. Coming up later on, we'll have our whole true moment brought to you by Miller Lite. There have been a lot of good ones so far for the Reds with a 7-0 lead here in the 5th inning.
Well, Tucker's got to figure what's going on here in this series up here in Milwaukee. Remember, the Reds scored 15 runs, had 20 hits the other day, and he took an 0 for 6. The only spot in the lineup.
0 for 4. He had 2 sac flies.
Oh, yeah, sacrifice flies, yeah. 0 for 4 with a couple of RBIs, and that's a nice running catch for the second out.
Yeah, the only saving grace was he had the 2 RBIs, but he was pretty upset about it after the game. I mean, he's happy his team won, but you don't like being the Lone Ranger.
Oh, no. Twins looking for their first 1, 2, 3. They have not had an idea of what that looks like here today.
Tyler Malley has a couple of perfect innings, working on a 2-hit shutout so far, and now Winker already stepping to the plate for the 4th time, and here we are in the 5th inning. Couple of base hits, couple of runs batted in, has scored a run. And the beat goes on for Jesse Winker. 23 hits and 75 at bats. You throw in 15 walks. On base percentage of .424 for Winker. That's mighty good. Well, they must have started early today in Miami. They're already finished. 3-0. The Marlins beat the Rockies back-to-back games. We'll see the Marlins next weekend in Cincinnati. And the Pirates are trying to sweep the Cardinals in Pittsburgh over the weekend. 4-0 Pittsburgh, bottom of the 7th. And the Cubs are going for the sweep against Milwaukee. They started when we started. They're in the bottom of the 5th of a scoreless game. High into the air, and it is indeed for McGill the 1-2-3 inning. First scoreless inning for the Reds today.
The Reds up on the Cubs, or on the Minnesota Twins, 7-0. Tyler Malley in command. Second time he will face Robbie Grossman. Here's the first time. First pitch underneath the elbows, knocks Grossman off. Little flinch there by Grossman, and finally got him on a breaking pitch to end the at-bat with a strikeout. One of 5 strikeouts that Malley has tallied this afternoon. I'd love to go back to that little package that we just showed you of Grossman facing Malley the first time, and look at the second pitch, because after getting one up underneath the elbows and Grossman being knocked off the plate, I swear I saw a flinch, and a pitcher sees that and a catcher sees that, and you know when you get that, you're really in command.
Well, let's go back to it again. Out number 1.
Here's all 3 pitches. We'll show you the first one. And now watch Grossman right there. Little bit of a flinch right there. Wanted to pull the trigger, couldn't do it, and it eventually went down on a strikeout. And it was so quick that Grossman looked back and said, "What happened?"
Nothing in 1 on Morrison, and a fastball off the inside corner, not by much. Good news for basketball fans in the northern end of the Buckeye State. Looks like Cleveland is getting ready to tie a ribbon around Game 7 against the Pacers, so they would advance on to the next round against, I believe it's Toronto. Tell you what, man, when people can get sick and tired of the guy, whatever it is. But LeBron James, what he has done in that series is maybe the best series he's ever played in his life, and he's had a ton of them. Closing in on a 50-point game today. 50 on the ground to the right side. And that's a second out for Malley here in the 5th inning. You know, we were talking about Malley in his last start when he got, a bunch of runs behind him against Atlanta. His first 21 innings, 1 run while he was in the game. The Reds had scored 1 run. But now the last 11 innings of the 10 runs against Atlanta.
And that's the one thing that you can't at all control as a starting pitcher, which it reminds me again, Tom Weiss, wins and losses don't really tell the story at all entirely for a starting pitcher. But he's not alone right there. Homer Bailey is a guy that has had very little run support when he takes the mound.
I mean, Bailey, even more so than Malley, should have 3 or 4 wins.
Could have.
Yeah. With any offensive help
I
at all.
always kind of laugh when somebody said, well, he pitched well enough to win. Well, you pitch well enough to keep your team in the game.
Yep.
You don't automatically get a win, if you ever throw a quality start out there. I mean, it used to be more than it is today, but it would be those guys that went deep into a ball game. You pitch 8 innings and then hand the ball to the closer. Those are the guys that get the W's. You go 5 or 6 innings and then hand it over to a middle reliever, you're taking your chances.
That's why, like you said, you just can't disregard. I get it when people say starters don't have control over whether they win games or not, but you can certainly have a lot of say, and that would depend on how far you're pitching into games indeed. I mean, it's just nonsense to make the argument that how many games a pitcher wins is out of his control. It's not totally in his control.
Certainly how many he loses is in his control.
There's no doubt about that. Well, again, I mean, I say no doubt about it, but again, like you were talking about with Bailey, I mean, you know, if you're pitching 6 or 7 innings and you're giving up 2 runs, I mean, did you control the fact that you got beat? I guess technically, you know, right down to the very dotting the I and crossing the T's. Yeah.
Well, I think the most important part of that, though, is you can't let it get to you mentally. You can't think that, gee, I'm the unlucky guy every 5th day. They don't score runs for me. I've got to go out and throw a shutout. When it takes you completely out of your game plan.
Swing and a miss. This guy, his last couple of starts, he has it rolling. 6 strikeouts in 5 innings for Tyler Malley. Together. And buy your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. Redlegs 7 runs and 10 hits, and that's through the first 5 innings of the game. They lead 7-0. McGill still on in relief. He came on to get the final out of the Reds' 3-run 4th inning and then worked through a 1-2-3 5th. The first inning, the Reds did not score a run in this game. 2, 3, and 4 in the order. Peraza already a 2-hit game. 2 singles, has scored a run. And this one will just leak through into right field, a hit. Have everything going Peraza's way. And the Reds, for that matter, on this day. But Peraza finding every hole. He's had 2 of those today.
Oh, you reach out, you hit one. The last time up, he hit a ball between the third baseman and the shortstop on the ground. This time, he hits between 2 infielders, this time first and second. Just to show you how democratic Jose Peraza actually is. Trying to get everybody in the action.
Joey Votto has walked, singled, scored, and struck out. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Votto. So after getting ahead 0-2, a lot of nibbling going on here. And it's 3 balls and 2 strikes now on Joey. They're in the 8th inning in Pittsburgh. 4-0 Pirates over the Cardinals. The Cardinals and the Brewers went into the weekend tied atop the National League Central. And both have been surpassed over the weekend by the teams they're playing over the weekend. Chicago leapfrogging Milwaukee while beating them. The Pirates leapfrogging the Cardinals while beating them.
Well, the interesting thing about that game between the Pirates and the Cardinals, Tom, is that the Pirates starting pitcher that day is a young man named Nick Kingham, who is making his major league debut today and went 6 perfect innings before the Cardinals finally got a hit in the 7th inning to break that up. He has now struck out 9, has not walked a batter through, well, his line is closed now. It's through 7 innings.
Votto started the at-bat behind 2 strikes and draws a walk. Old days, that used to get you fined, didn't it? You started a hitter 0-2 and you walk him.
0-2 walks, 2 out walks, walking the opposing pitcher.
Was that a Dick Williams only rule?
Not being able to get a bunt down. He was the only one that enforced it. $5 a pop. And believe me, you get 2 outs and go 3-0 on the 3rd hitter, you're thinking more about that $5 than you are about getting the pitcher on base. Negative reinforcement.
He won a lot of games.
Not with me on the hill.
But you were always one of his favorites, that's for sure. Do you think, you know, when the day comes when you arrive in the pearly gates, do you think the first guy there to give you a hug will be Dick Williams?
I'd like to get my fine money back.
Struck out Jeanette on 3 pitches. First out here in the 6th inning.
I don't remember McGill having this much life on his fastball. He's come in and done a pretty nice job. And he's thrown up in the mid-90s, but it's got a little extra life on it.
Eugenio Suarez, a pair of base hits. He's also drawn a walk, so he's been on base each of his 3 plate appearances today. He's knocked in 2. Drove in the first run of the game with a 2-out double to left, and then had a broken bat flare to left center field to play to run the last inning. They'll get 1, and that's all. So runners on the corners with 2 away for Shevler. Scott is 1 of 3. Is driven in a pair, 1 on the fielder's choice, another on a single to right in the 4th. 7 runs, 11 hits for the Reds, and we're just in the 6th inning. Tyler Malley working on a 2-hit shutout. Strike one. Straight up in the air, and I mean way up there. And Kepler in to get it to retire the side. Second straight scoreless innings delivered by McGill.
His battery mate Tucker Barnhart. How do you combat that?
I think it's just being cognizant of how we've gotten guys out the first and second time, and maybe not necessarily falling into a pattern that we've gone to the first 2 times. So something that today, hopefully, he can get to the third time through the order, and hopefully we can do a little bit better job this start as opposed to what we have done earlier this season. So we're aware of it, definitely aware of it, and it's something that we're going to put an onus on and get him through that third time.
I was facing the 9 batter, then the top of the order where the third time through the order starts, so we'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, it was his last start. You may remember he had the no-hitter going into the 7th inning. He gave up a home run to Freddie Freeman. He allowed a double to the next batter, then another home run. And, I mean, just like that, a no-hitter and a shutout. He had given up 3 hits and 3 runs, and he got him out of the game.
Well, coming into this ball game, I mean, his batting average against first time through the order was 200. Second time through the order, 171, and then it jumped to over 600. Now that's a small sample size. You know, I'm not drawing a lot of conclusions from that, but I think what Danny Darwin's talking about is making an adjustment. And sometimes that adjustment is not what you do on the third time through the order. It's what you do the first time. You know, save something for later on is what you used to hear from the pitching coach. You know, if you can get through the first time by throwing a lot more fastballs, hide your breaking ball a little bit. Hide that second or third pitch as much as you can.
This ball is laced over the head of Winker into right field, and Castro with a double.
Through that ball, came right over the plate center cut for the number 9 hitter in the order, Jason Castro. Always a defensive first catcher, but boy, he hit that one very hard.
So here's Dozier. He has struck out swinging in each of his first 2 times against Tyler Malley today. And we note once more this will now be the 3rd time through the order. Strike 1. Those are the numbers. 11 of the 15 runs he has allowed have come the 3rd time through a batting order. 1 ball, 1 strike.
You know, it's good to bring that out to a pitcher, but you certainly don't want to dwell on it to the point where it becomes a phobia for him. That all of a sudden, you know, he gets to the 6th inning and he's realizing, here I am the 3rd time through the order. I don't know what I do out here. You kind of stay with your game plan. And the Reds overall are having that problem. I just looked it up on the computer, Tom, and the Reds are the worst in the National League on batting average given up 3rd time through the order. The best of the Cardinals at 236, the worst of the Reds at 368. So it's not a problem that is, you know, only specific to Tyler Malley. I think it has to do with having a lot of young pitchers on your staff, and they're still kind of learning how to get deep into a ball game, and that will come.
In the air over in foul territory, and Votto can't get a glove on it.
Well, there's some wind here today. There's no doubt about it. It was windy here, very windy the first night we were in on Friday night, and it's breezy again today. Votto went over to the stands, thought he'd be able to pick the ball back up and would be right above him, and I think the wind blew it back towards the field a little bit.
Pretty cool to look at that, whatever that is, some kind of metal fencing or, you know, wiring in front of that garage structure out there down the first base line. They have that thing lit up at night. Just a pretty cool visual during the day. Swing and a miss, and Dozier is gone on strikes for the 3rd straight time.
Malley says, I'll take care of it myself.
I mean, simply just throws the ball right by him here.
And we really have to admire the effort level of Tyler Malley. I mean, it just looks like he's playing catch out there. And I think that if it looks good to us, it's deceptive to the hitter.
So now Mauer, who has hit the ball sharply twice, a line drive to left and a line drive to center. The more we've been here this weekend, this is a really cool park. It's a nice place. Down the left field line and foul. That's where Mauer went his first time up on a laser that was caught by Duvall. Take a look at that 5-story bar they have right there in left field in the corner. 5 floors of it. And on a day like today, all the sunshine here. A couple of weekends ago, you wouldn't have dug it much when they had a couple of feet of snow on the ground.
Well, okay, partner. Are you starting at the bottom floor or are you starting at the top floor?
What do you mean?
No, I'm talking about,
I'm actually going to start at the top.
if you're going to enjoy that 5-story bar, where
I'm
you
starting at the top.
Okay.
Back up through the middle and into center field, a base hit. And that will play to run. So here in the 6th inning, Minnesota finally breaks through. They get a leadoff double by Castro, a single by Mauer, and it's a 7-1 lead for the Redlegs.
Mauer's just a really great hitter. And he puts a little overspin on that ball. It gets through the infield very quickly. And they break up the shutout.
And at least a few guys beginning to walk around. Don't know if anybody's going to get up in the Reds bullpen, but most of the guys have been sitting down out there, and now bodies are in motion.
I think one more comment about the third time through the order might be enlightening to some people. It used to be in the minor leagues, when you started a game, you finished the game. But nowadays, with pitch counts the way they are, and teams so conservative about, you know, treating a young man's arm like it's fragile. How many pitchers are actually able to go and pitch against a team 3 times through the order or 4 times through the order? So you get up here to the major leagues and you're holding them to different standards than they are down in the minor leagues.
Well, you know, you and I talked a little bit about this the other night. And Greg Maddux used to say all the time, and I'm sure he wasn't the first guy that said it. He probably heard it from somebody else, but he very much believed it. There's a fly ball on the left that'll be the second out of the inning, and that is, you never really learn to pitch until after you hit the 100 pitch mark.
I was talking to Danny Darwin about that the other day, and you know, we're both old timers, and we both agree on that. Now that may be a little bit of an exaggeration, but the point is that, and I was kind of making this point to some of the relievers the other day who were like Amir Garrett, who worked 3 out of the 4 days. I said, you know, that third day that you work out of 4, that's when you really learn how to pitch. You can feel your body. You may not be able to rear back and fog it by them, because with raw stuff, you learn how to spot the ball.
See what the wind does with this. Off the top of the dugout. I mean, you know, it's like training for a marathon. And people who have trained for marathons, you know, they'll have that long run day where they go out, and as they're getting deeper and deeper into their training, they're running the 20-mile day. They're running the 22-mile day. If you never practice getting close to the 26-mile day, right? Now, that training is very different than this kind of thing, but you get the point I'm making in that if you're not training or ever being given a chance to get to the 7th inning, what would make anybody think you could get to the 7th inning, right?
I agree.
But a nice bounce back there, getting a couple of pop flies to end the inning. 7-1, Reds in front.
Cincinnati Reds. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Looking for the perfect gift for a new parent? How about the Reds Rookies Fan Club? Each membership features exclusive Reds Rookie swag, a bucket cap, photo frame, bib, and a lot more. They get tickets and opportunity to participate in the parade on the field. Lots going on. Memberships are only $20. Visit Reds.com/fan clubs. You know, Chris, just to finish a thought here as we get a look at a new pitcher. We've seen him already in this series. It'll be right-hander Tyler Duffy. One of the great athletic directors in high school around the state of Ohio. In fact, he's been named the athletic director of the year a couple of times. Is Tom Nurl out at Marymount. Had a son that pitched collegiately, was a really good pitcher. And he was just following our conversation. He sends me a text. He went to the Columbus Clippers game last night. AAA team.
I know them. Played there for 2 years for him.
Starting pitcher faced 25 batters. Was perfect through the first 25 batters of the game. A perfect game. The second he hit the 100 pitch mark, they took him out of the game. The next batter had a double.
Well, I can guarantee you one thing. It wasn't his decision. And
There's
it was
no doubt
probably
about
not the decision of the manager either. I mean, this is what you're hearing from the front office. And the perplexing thing is, it seems like the fewer pitches a starting pitchers throw, the more often they get injured.
That ball is killed by Duvall, and the Reds get that run right back off the facing of the second deck. Duvall is 14th home run, fourth home run, 14 and 15 in the RBI column. And the Reds now lead 8-1.
Well, he had 3 hits the first night, Duvall did, and you know, we talked about him hitting. He had a double yesterday of the left center field gap, and just maybe he's coming around like the rest of this offense is. He goes right down to get this bad boy.
This has really been a good week for the Reds. I mean, look, you know, they had to make the decision and did make the decision as Barnhart finally finds a hole and has a base hit into center field after hitting a liner right at the first baseman his last time up. But you know, they made the decision to make the managerial change. Jim Riggleman takes over. It was a lost weekend in St. Louis a couple of weekends ago, but then they come back home, and when I say a good week, the Reds have played every day this week, and if they can nail down this 7-run lead with 9 outs to go, it would be a 4-3 win-loss week. And for a team that had 3 wins in their first 21 games, I mean, that is a significant step forward.
You're not kidding. And they go back home. They play a series against the Milwaukee Brewers and a series against the Marlins.
And then a series at home against the Mets. First long homestand of the year. You know, you really felt like they could have won one of those final 2 games in the Braves series and win that series rather than the 4-game split. But they didn't. Well, they come in here and they fall behind 5-1 in the first inning on Friday night. Starter can't get through the second inning. And they end up with 15 runs and 20 hits. And after a loss yesterday, 8 runs, 13 hits so far here today. Blandino has one of those hits. He scored 2 runs and 3 trips. This Minnesota team has some significant parts too, really, that are out right now. And you know, Urban Santana, he's their main guy, and we talked about Byron Buxton. There's a fly ball to right. I got to tell you, you know, we don't see the Twins in spring training, and obviously we rarely ever see them in the regular season. But you know, you talk to a lot of people around here, and they're like, "This team's going to be okay." I got to tell you, I mean, I know it's only a 3-game series, and heck, you know, you can go watch the Boston Red Sox have a bad 3-game series and walk away, and it's not a fair assessment. But just looking at their starting pitching, what we've seen so far, and their bullpen, it's hard to imagine that this team is anywhere in the same galaxy as a Cleveland team in their division.
Yeah, well, we got to see Cleveland a lot in spring training, and they just seem to be a complete ball club. And I think that's what you're saying here with the Twins. They're missing some pieces. I was very disappointed not to see Buxton play in this series.
Yeah, me too.
Because it would have been back-to-back series where the Reds would have faced, you know, the Gold Glove Award winner in center field.
Yep.
Inciarte with Atlanta came in when the Reds were playing the Braves, and Buxton actually received the award on Friday night, not only the Gold Glove, but the Platinum Glove.
Ender Inciarte was really impressive that 4-game series in Cincinnati, at the plate and especially in the field. That's a good player. He's only 27 years old.
Yeah.
Seems like he's been around forever. Speaking of Atlanta, they're rolling again. 6-1 beating up the Philadelphia Phillies. Cardinals are batting in the 9th, trailing 5-0. Washington trying to escape with a win against Arizona. D-backs were going for the sweep in D.C. 3-1 Arizona bats in the 9th inning. And Winker a foul tip into the mid of Castro for strike 3. And now a quick message from Miami Valley Gaming.
Get ready to get lucky.
Two down in the inning. And here's Peraza, a 3-hit day. Straight away center, and backpedaling to get it is Dozier, and that will end the inning. The home run by Duvall, a long one. Middle of the 7th, the Reds lead by 7.
On the field Saturday, July 28th. So everyone with a ticket to the Reds game will have a chance to enjoy the show from Walk the Moon. For tickets, visit reds.com/concerts. That ought to be a good day. Saturday, July the 28th for Walk the Moon.
Take a look at our game summary. Tyler Malley has been a story now for really a second straight start. He carried a no-hitter into his last start into the 7th inning. And he has been terrific here today. He's allowed 1 run, and he's still in the game, by the way. Peraza with a 3-hit game has scored a run. A lot of guys have hit today. Eugenio Suarez has a couple of hits, and both of them came with 2 outs in an inning to drive in runs. A double in the first, a broken bat in the fourth. Reds have 8 runs, 13 hits. Malley trying to get through 7. As he'll get the ball to face Kepler, Grossman, Morrison. 5, 6, 7 in the Twins batting order.
And a real efficient pitch count so far for Malley. I mean, you know, just over the 80 pitch mark. Here he is in the 7th inning. And what's really impressive about that is that you start talking about striking out 7 batters. You know, those are the kind of at bats that eat up pitches, but he's done that efficiently.
I still can't believe that story about that pitcher last night in Columbus. I mean, the more and more I thought about it, I just wasn't even registering about 25 batters. You're 2 outs away from a perfect game and get taken out of the game. I mean, it's not like you're in the 7th. I believe the guy's name was Plutko or Plutko, something like that.
Adam Plutko.
And what organization is that with? Cleveland, or was that with the team they were
Tom,
playing?
but I'm showing him as pitching 8 innings.
Okay, well then 24 batters, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know who decided that 100 pitches was the mark, because it's a round number. Why not 107 pitches? Why not 89 pitches? I mean, does your arm know when it gets to 100?
Did yours?
The hitters knew. But I mean, the hitters will tell you when you've had enough out there.
Well, there's no doubt about that. But I mean, look, but we know at the same time you're not going to run young pitchers out for 125 and 135. They don't do that to big league guys either. I mean,
not anymore.
No, not anymore. There was a time they did.
There was a time they did, and there were fewer injuries. Of course, you can make the argument, well, the reason there were fewer injuries, there were fewer ways to diagnose injuries.
Yeah.
There weren't MRIs. Which reminds me of the best line I ever heard Jack McKeon utter. When you have more MRIs than RBIs, you got a problem.
That's no doubt about that. Grossman with 1 away and a 2-2 count here in the 7th. Boy, there was another guy. I just thought he was an excellent manager, McKeon. What he did with that Marlins team in 2003 was nothing shy of incredible.
That was a team that came up and beat the Chicago Cubs in the playoffs. I was watching that Steve Bartman game a little bit last night.
Well, what people forget is in the opening round, they played the best team that year in the National League, which was the San Francisco Giants. And they beat the Giants in the division series. And then that epic 7-game NLCS against Chicago, where they were behind 3-1 in that series. Got a complete game from Josh Beckett to keep the series alive. The Steve Bartman game, there's ball 4, that will forever be known in game 6, when they gave up 8 runs to the Cubs in the 8th inning. And then they beat Kerry Wood in game 7. Well, here comes Jim Riggleman. That's going to be all for Tyler Malley. He issues a 1-out walk. Billy Hamilton's in the game to play center, and Schebler moves over to right. Winker's out. But what an excellent game again for Tyler Malley. That's his longest outing of this season, 6 1/3, and he allows just the 1 run so far. Strikes out 7, walks 1. Back in a moment.
because we did say it after his last start. It was an outstanding 11 strikeout start. Today, 6 1/3, 1 run, 7 punch-outs. You'll take that any time. And I think, Tom, that anybody who got to see Malley pitch in spring training realized that this guy is a top of all the young pitchers that the Reds have been able to bring up. He's got as good a stage presence as anybody. He's been gifted with a great arm. But I think more than that, he really understands at a young age what it takes to pitch. And hopefully we'll just see him get better and better.
Well, here's another good-looking young pitcher in the left-hander, Amir Garrett. He is having an excellent season as Garrett. Through a scoreless inning in the 6th here on Friday night in that 15-9 win. Of course, he started the year with 8 scoreless relief appearances spanning nearly 10 innings. That streak was broken on Tuesday night when he had a career long as a reliever. 2 1/3 inning outing, and then hit some bumps in the road, and Iglesias had to come in behind him. Iglesias that night blew the save. The Reds would win that game in extra innings on the Jeanette home run. Logan Morrison, a count of 1 ball and 2 strikes.
And the Reds are kind of doing it old school with Amir Garrett. Now, they may be doing it because of need. They need another left-hander in the bullpen, and Garrett is there and able. But I mean, old school by giving the guy a lot of touches out of the bullpen, frequent short stints, and then maybe move him into the starting rotation at some point. One of the problems of being a young pitcher is that if you go out and you have a string of bad outings, and first of all, you don't get the innings and the repetitions that you need to do, and then you got 4 days to sit around and think about how bad you were, and you really, the next time you want to go out and be a superhero, and it just doesn't work like that. So I think the way that it's worked out for Garrett so far this year has been really good for him and the ball club.
In the air, Billy Hamilton just coming into the game, able to track the fly ball. 2 outs in the inning. Adrianza will bat. He has struck out twice, both of those, of course, against Tom and Malley. The other thing about Garrett is sometimes, you know, relievers, and most of the time this year, in honesty and fairness, most of the time that he's come into a game, he's come in a clean inning, but not every time. And every now and again, you'll see a reliever who has a really low ERA, and he's given up almost as many hits as innings pitched, and he's walked a couple of guys, and you're thinking, well, this guy's having a good year, right? Well, then you go look up the inherited runners and the number that's scored. Now, Garrett is coming into this game with 5 inherited runners so far this season, and not a single one of them has scored. Garrett, before this year, had never pitched on consecutive days. He was a starter. He has pitched in back-to-back days twice so far this year. Most recently a couple of days ago. We saw him on Friday night. He had pitched on Thursday in the game against Atlanta, and then Friday got yesterday off. Reds are in a stretch where they have a lot of games. A lot without a day off. Well, when they get to Thursday of this week will be the final one. I should say until you get to that. But they play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday against Milwaukee. They do get Thursday off, but then it's a long run at it, where they will play Miami for 3. They'll play the Mets for 3 games, and they go out west and they play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row against the Dodgers and the Giants. Adrianza drops it foul off to the first base side. We are just in the bottom of the 7th inning. We got a little ways to go here today. And the Reds with an 8-1 lead. Ripped into left field, a base hit. Nice play by Duvall to throw that into second base, but there's nobody there. Thankfully, Votto picked up on it right away, where that ball just goes dribbling through the infield and a run scores. That was a really nice play by Duvall.
Well, he got to the ball very quickly. You know, we take outfield defense for granted because normally an outfielder picks the ball up off the wall and he fires it back into the cutoff man. He's thinking about keeping that to a single right there. It was a nice play by Duvall. But both the infielders on the left side were going down the line to set up a relay throw.
All right, so runners at second and third after the double by Adrianza. And here is Castro, the catcher, number 9 batter, breaking ball, and it's strike 1. Grossman and Adrianza the runners, and a breaking ball this time not chasing is Castro. He struck out looking, and then he doubled and scored the only Minnesota run against Malley. That double came to right field leading off the 6th, and he scored on a single by Mauer. Nice play over there. That's big league catch. I've seen a couple of those today over in that same neighborhood. There was a guy, young guy earlier, man, made an incredible play. Big league fan defense here in Minneapolis. Whoa, Barnhart somehow got a glove on that one. Caught that. Well,
got to be nimble.
He won a gold glove, so he must know what he's doing. 3-2 on Castro. Castro's really never been much of a batter. He's always been known as a defense first catcher. He's had a nice long career, though. All those seasons in Houston. Unfortunately for him, the 1 year he leaves as a free agent, he signs with Minnesota last year, and his former club won the World Series. Gone swinging and that'll end the inning. Off to the 8th. The Reds lead 8-1. All right, Pick. Brian, thank you. Look forward to checking in with you guys here shortly on Reds Live, coming up right after the ball game. Reds bat in the 8th inning. It's still Duffy on the mound, and Votto, Jeanette, Suarez, a scheduled threesome here in the 8th. Reds 8 runs, 13 hits. Minnesota 1 run on 5 hits, 4 of those hits against starter Tyler Malley. Walks 2, fans 7, 1 run in his 6 1/3. In line for what would be his 2nd win of the year. I think you brought up an interesting point, Chris, earlier, and you certainly, I don't care who or where they play. You never want to see anything bad happen to anybody. But today, you got to wonder about Barrios. You just hope nothing's wrong with him, because, I mean, in no form or fashion did he resemble the pitcher that has been pitching for the Minnesota Twins so far this year. So, of course, somebody could say the same thing about Luis Castillo.
Yeah.
Now, with the Reds, I'm sure that many of you at home may have seen the comments made by Jim Riggleman after the game on Friday night, and more expansively on Saturday, expanding on the whole thing. Is that, he wishes they had another off day where they could skip Castillo's turn in the rotation and let him have 2 bullpen sessions with Danny Darwin, because they feel like it's an arm angle thing. Now, whether you buy into that or not, you make the call. Chris, you know so much about baseball mechanics, more than most people will ever know. But that's at least what the Reds believe. But because he's scheduled to pitch on Wednesday, they can't skip him this time, or at least they're not going to skip him this time.
It used to be, Tom, that you'd have a guy in the bullpen that would be your long man, but they wouldn't call you only the long man. They would call you the swing man, and that swing guy would be somebody who you could punch into that spot. And in this case, it would be maybe Amir Garrett if they felt like they wanted to do that, if it was so necessary. Based on, for instance, Castillo had his bullpen today, and I don't know how it went. I didn't have a chance to talk to anybody about it. I presume it went all right. He came off the field, looked okay. But if it was serious enough, for one reason or another, maybe his arm ached, or maybe his release point wasn't where he wanted to be, or the bullpen went south or something, then you could always have somebody. And there seem to be reluctant to do that nowadays. We're kind of stuck on that schedule. So I've always been one that we're not dealing with robots here. You can have them, kind of think outside the box a little bit. And
do you think you can help a guy with his couple bullpen sessions, rather than pitching a game?
I think so, if he's really bad. I don't think he's that far off. I just think he's kind of getting underneath the ball a little bit instead of getting out over the top of it.
This will be the 2nd out of the inning after the Jeanette single.
It's almost what you're looking for is like an aha moment where you tell him something, he repeats it to you, you get on the mound, he does it a few times, and all of a sudden the light goes on in his head.
The producer of Reds Baseball is Josh Hall. Our director, Roy Alfers. Our associate producers, Matt Sigafus and Jim Mueller. Reds Live, produced by Kent Dream Weaver. The coordinating producer of Reds Baseball, Bob Pennell, and our executive producer at Fox Sports Ohio is Tom Farmer. Schebler, the batter, with 2 outs and nobody on, or runner at first, 2 away, and there's ball 1. Cardinals will be coming into this ballpark, part of interleague play next month. Well, this is a really, really nice park. You asked me about a question. Now you know the reason why you start on the 5th level out there, right?
Well, I know the reason I do.
Why do you start it there?
Well, I'd rather walk down the stairs than up the stairs.
And especially as you move on through the course of the afternoon, right? There's a difference between walking out on street level and walking down 15 flights of stairs. We call it Reds Live. It's presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Right back at it tomorrow night from the home front. Y'all be well. The Brewers come to town. They've lost 3 in a row, and they're about to lose 4 in a row after winning 8 straight games. Talked about Eric Thames a couple of days ago. He's out. Reds dropped 2 of 3 in Milwaukee a couple of weeks ago. But the Cubs are 3 outs away from a 3-game weekend sweep over the Brewers.
Yeah, that last game today pitched by Tyler Chatwood.
After a big game, the guy you like, Quintana.
Yeah, 2-hit shutout baseball.
Cubs are starting to get it rolling a little bit here. And the Pirates have officially swept the Cardinals over the weekend. And the Cardinals against the Reds have been unbeatable. And that's not an exaggeration. They have been unbeatable. But they got worn out this weekend. 5-0 the final today by the Pirates. So the Pirates and the Cubbies separated by a half game. Pirates in front in the NL Central. Dozier to lead things off here in the Minnesota 8th inning against Amir Garrett with the Reds in front 8-1. New York Mets have a half-game lead over Philadelphia in the National League East. Atlanta a game and a half back. Washington 6 back. Although the Nationals finally beat Arizona today 3-1. Big shift put on Dozier, and he just punches it the other way. I don't know if you'd agree with this. I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like hitters are getting pretty good at hitting against the shift in the early part of this season. We've seen a lot of those.
I believe you're right, Tom, and I also believe you're going to see more and more of it. And the more you see of it, the less you'll see of the shift. I mean, the whole idea of the metrics and plotting all this stuff out is to try to stay one step ahead of the competition. So when the hitters finally catch up, they'll figure something else out.
Well, it's like legalized gambling is what it is. You're just betting on the percentages.
I guess it is like that.
I mean, you know, it's a calculated based on statistical information, and that's all gambling is. I mean, you know, you're figuring whether it's point spreads or whether it's over under and all those other kinds of things based on just volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes of information, or in this case video and information. But on baseball with a leadoff single by Brian Dozier in an 8-1 game, you're not hurt like you are betting that 3-point spread and losing.
No
That's
comment.
the difference. One of them hurts, it's a little bee sting. The other one, a lot worse than that.
Well, Danny Darwin's going to come out and try to settle down Amir Garrett before this inning starts to build some momentum for the Twins. Wandy Peralta's up and throwing in the bullpen. This is where you really want, I mean, if you're Danny Darwin or a Reds fan, all of us, you know, you really want Amir Garrett to kind of take control of this situation right here and be your own pitching coach from the standpoint of what my mechanics need to be in order for me to throw the ball where I want to. Darwin's not out there talking about specific arm angles and landing spots and things like that. That's up to the pitcher to figure out.
Played a tune there in between that mound visit. Hadn't heard in a while. Boy, that's a good one. Kenny Rogers, the gambler. The gambler.
Speaking of.
That's right, as if on cue. Good song. 3-1 to count. And there's a walk to Mauer, so the first 2 aboard in the Minnesota 8th inning. Danny Darwin will now check in on how far along Wandy Peralta is, or maybe he'll ask a right-hander to join Peralta in that Reds bullpen.
I miss the old days of when you used to look down the bullpen and you'd wave your cap when you're ready to go.
That's right. What's wrong with that?
That never broke. The phone never broke back in those days. The phone was used to order pizza.
That's exactly right. And the way this one's going, we might need to get one, have it delivered by the 9th inning. That's all for Garrett. Wandy will come on with 2 on and nobody out. We're in the 8th. Reds in front. Big. Package featuring an exclusive Chewbacca bobblehead and the Marvel package. It's Captain America bobblehead. Guarantee these limited edition collectibles with a theme ticket package. Visit reds.com/themes. Well, Amir Garrett allowed a single to begin the inning, and then he walked Maurer, so he's out. Reds with an 8-1 lead, and now taking over is Wandy Peralta. He's had his issues with control the early part of this year. His numbers are good. After he's putting them on, he's getting them out. Good pitch. First strike there. See, even the 10 walks there in 12 2/3, but opponents hitting just 200. So he's tough to hit. Seems like every time you turn around, you look down there at first base, and Joe Maurer and Joey Votto are having a running conversation throughout this entire series.
Well, and they were talking about hitting for the most part. I mean, there were times yesterday that, you know, Votto was kind of demonstrating, you know, Maurer's stride and, you know, kind of moving his arm to show you what his swing path was. And take him to lunch.
Swing and a miss. Real good pitch. And Wandy just worked over Rosario on that at bat. One out here in the 8th. Eduardo Escobar with Dozier at second, Maurer at first, one out in the 8th inning. Reds scored, if you're just tuning in each of the first 4 innings. 1, 2, 3. Got a home run by Duvall in the 7th.
Yeah, I was reading something yesterday, Tom. That last strikeout by Peralta reminded me of this. The ball was in the dirt and it got away temporarily from Tucker Barnhart. It was strike 3. Now with runners at first base, you're automatically out, less than 2 outs, right? But if Rosario decided to run down the line and the catcher has a temporary, back to it.
They'll get one. Go ahead.
That was a good try. But if the catcher temporarily blanks out and doesn't remember and then airmails it over the first baseman's head, that's a live ball in the play.
But because you said there was a runner already at first,
that he's automatically out. But as long as the batter runner doesn't interfere, he can run towards first base. And
every batter should do it
and draw a throw.
That should be something they tell every batter to do, because catchers might not know the rule.
Yeah. It's the same way with a runner being thrown out at second base right here. He could have gotten up and started running towards third. And if someone on the fielders realizes, oh, maybe he's not out, throws the third, throws it wild, and then you have everything, go crazy. It's one of those little known things I thought I'd bring up in an 8-1 game.
For those of you that don't know, you can go to baseballrulesacademy.com. Baseball Rules Academy, all one word.com. And you can learn about every rule there is, and most of them you've never heard of. baseballrulesacademy.com. Save you 15% or more on car insurance. And buy Toyota for over 30 offers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Lots to choose from. Our Miller Lite Hold True moment. But this long home run by Adam Duvall is 4th of the year. Getting the Reds that run right back after the Twins scored their only run in the bottom of the 6th that came in the 7th. And Duvall to lead things off here in the 9th. Tyler Duffy starts his 3rd inning of work. He gave up the home run to Duvall. The first batter he faced. Mitch Garver, we saw him behind the plate last night. He will take over for Mauer, 35-year-old, sitting out the final inning today. Breaking ball down and away, and chasing it is Duvall. 2nd strikeout for Duffy. 1 out. David Hernandez, who made his Reds debut here on Friday night, actually got the win in that game on Friday night. He is throwing in the bullpen, and we'll probably see him for the 9th inning. Excellent job by Peralta. If indeed his afternoon is finished, he went 1 inning, allowed nary a base runner, retired 3 in a row with a strikeout. Well, that's some nasty movement on that pitch right there by Duffy. Back-to-back strikeouts. He has 3 of them. Jose Peraza over the last 2+ seasons. Most hits by any Red in a 3-game series. Peraza has matched Schooner and Joey Votto. Landino extended his hitting streak. He has 1 hit and 4 at bats, scored a couple of runs. I tell you, just looking up at that scoreboard, I really wasn't paying attention about where that weekend series was played. The Indians were playing. And we've been in Cleveland, you know, during interleague play in June when the Cavaliers are playing next door in the NBA playoffs, as they were today. There's a fly ball to right. That's a pretty cool day when you've got right next door, just across the street, the Indians and the Cavaliers playing.
Must have been a zoo today.
Yeah,
A fun
that's pretty
zoo.
cool down there today. When you consider the Reds have not won a series this year, it would be the first series win since the middle of September last year. First road series win since August of last year down in Atlanta. And their first interleague 3-game road series going all the way back to 2013 September at Minute Maid Park in Houston. David Hernandez got the win here in his Reds debut on Friday night. And he will take over leading 8-1. Hernandez went an inning and a third, allowed a hit, 3 strikeouts, a walk, and no runs in relief of Luis Castillo, and then in front of him Kevin Shackelford for a couple of innings.
Well, timing is everything. When you come in, you pitch the right amount of time in the ball game, and then your team comes back and takes the lead. He ends up with kind of a vulture win, is the way they call it, but hey, he'll take it. He threw the ball really well. You know, I get the feeling in talking to him, Tom, that, you know, his arm hurt a lot through spring training, and he really didn't say anything to anybody. Then it finally got to the point where it became unmanageable. They had to give him some rest, give him some treatment, and he says it feels great right now.
Hernandez will cover the bag, take the feed from Votto, out number 1 in the 9th. Logan Morrison, the batter. That one ripped down the right field line. Boy, he's done a lot of that in this series. I know that's his first hit today, but we brought up earlier about how hard he has hit the ball.
Well, one of the things they're really encouraged about, and I compared him earlier with Yonder Alonso. Alonso went through the same thing last year that Morrison did, which was really reduce the number of times he hits the ball on the ground. I mean, he's got a little bit of an uppercut swing, but he has hit line drive after line drive to right field. Both of those guys have cut their ground ball rate way down, which is one reason why their power numbers have gone way up.
Boy, did Alonso hit a long home run yesterday. Oh, man. You know, 2 of those guys the Reds traded. Well, in fact, 3 of them. Boxberger, Grandal, and Alonso are doing pretty well these days.
That was a Matt Latos deal.
It was. If I'm not mistaken, I think all 3 of those guys have gone to an All-Star game, have they not? I thought Boxberger finally went to one last year, right? For the first time?
Definitely did, yeah. And we know Grandal has.
And we know Alonso did with Oakland, I think, last year. Two balls and a strike. You hear those names, Grandal, Yasmani Grandal, and Yonder Alonso. Your first thought might be they were, you know, products of the Reds in Latin America. That's not the case, although their families both came from the country of Cuba. Both of those players were born in the United States and in Miami and played collegiately at the University of Miami. 3-1 the count on Adrianza. Boy, Harry Carey would have loved this guy's name. He would have had so much fun with this guy's name. I had a guy asking me to tell him a bunch of Harry stories last night. Danny Gladden, a longtime major league player and very popular Twin, was on their World Series teams here and so forth. He's one of their radio announcers. So I had dinner last night, and a bunch of regulars in his place were talking about Harry. It was fun. 3-2 the count. The greatest name that Harry ever had to deal with was by far Hector Villanueva. That was the best one of all time. And he even had fun with it.
He would even have fun with players who didn't have hard names to pronounce.
That's right.
I mean,
it's in the air center field.
Like Welsh.
What did he call you?
Well, he actually described my pitching motion one time as a guy that looks like he's got an ironing board strapped to his back.
He was a funny guy, man. Whoa. Funny guy. Used to love to spell people's names backwards.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh yeah.
It was that was always a hoot. All right, Castro with 2 away, and the Reds leading by 7. Hernandez will try and put him away and give the Reds their first series win of this 2018 season.
To say when you're in a winning dugout or leading dugout at this point, this is the guy we've been looking for all day long. Out number 27.
It's a base hit down the right field line that'll bring in a run. So Castro a run scoring double makes it 8-2.
Second double on the day for Castro, both of them down the right field line. He did a pretty good job on that slow breaking ball.
He only had 1 double, 2 extra base hits all year long before today. So here's Dozier. 2 outs in the 9th. And Hernandez bringing it straight up in the air, and this should do it. Camped out underneath it is Duvall. And for the first time here in 2018, the Reds win a series. Great stuff. And the end of a really good 7-day stretch for the Reds, where they play 7 times and they win 4 of the 7. 2 against Atlanta in a 4-game split, and 2 of 3 in Minneapolis in their first interleague road series victory since downing the Astros in 2016. Reds live right around the corner. Reds win. Reds win.